You're entering the Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog. It is the annual, now 2025 March Madness bracket picks breakdown. We're going to go all the way to the Final Four, help you fill out your bracket with all the information you need to know. So, you good people out there, smash a like, sub to Mayo Media Network. If you want to jump into the live chat, you need to be subbed to Mayo Media Network in order to do that. So, there we are. That's what everything you need to do. Ben Rasa from Stochastic and Odd Shopper is on the line with me right now. Ben, this is our 5th year doing this show together. We've hit the winner twice. We've had 2 very bad years, but it went bad, good, bad, no. Good, bad, good, bad. We're due for a good.
We're due for a good. And we can live with that. Too good, too bad. This is the rubber match, and it's a cool bracket. So, as always, I'm excited to get into it.
And obviously, joining us from Sports Grid to break this all down and give his picks, he's mad. He is raging, what I hear. It is Gabriel Morency. Sir, how are you?
Hey, good to see you guys. Ready to rock. I'm sort of in a good mood after the Michigan Big Ten victory, but then they got dealt a pretty weak hand, I thought, by getting the 5 seed. And I'm sure, like a lot of the viewers right now, and I'm sure, Pat, you didn't expect this golf tournament to still be going on when we were going to be doing this, but I've got Rory, and I'm hoping he can cash this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would like to see Rory win. I mean, if Akshay couldn't win, I'd be happy to see Rory end up in the winner's circle. So I'm tracking that live as we go right now. But we're here to talk about college basketball, especially those who are watching this after the fact who will know what the results of the players are. Jeff and I will be on the channel tomorrow morning, breaking down the players and moving on to the Valspar. I do want to let everyone know there's an awesome best ball contest on Underdog right now. If you use code Mayo at Underdog, you get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. You can use those $1,000 extra bucks to draft these college basketball teams for the tournament. It resets every single round. You keep the team that you have. So there's strategy both with the players that you draft, Ben, and with the teams that you predict to go on further. Because obviously, when you get to the final and you have no players, you're not going to win. That's probably not a good look. So is there anyone that you think, like, who's the number 1 overall pick in this sort of draft, do you think?
In terms of a player?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be probably either Cooper Flagg or Broom from Auburn, someone that you think can go deep. There's, the 1 seeds, particularly with their strongest players, I would think that's where, just thinking out loud, I think that's how you'd have to start.
Yeah, that's probably the chalk move, isn't it, Gabe?
It would be. I think the Houston Cougars are a team to keep your eye on. But, one thing about the good teams, why they're so good, is because they're so balanced, right? You look at the Florida Gators, you have multiple players that are scoring double digits in every basketball game, and that's what makes them so good. But obviously, yeah, it's like a playoff fantasy pool or whatnot, right? You want to isolate teams and players on those teams that you think are going to go far. This is going to be a competitive tournament, guys. In past years, it used to sort of be, if you were a good team, you really weren't sweating out the first weekend of games. Speaking of the Houston Cougars, I mean, they could get Gonzaga in their second game, right? Like, this is going to be a crazy competitive tournament, and I'm expecting a lot of upsets, actually, as well. Or at least I should say, like, loose upsets. There'll be technical upsets, but all these teams are so evenly matched.
Well, once again, code Mayo at Underdog right now and get yourself into that draw or not, it's a draw. Get yourself a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. I'm giving away money tomorrow on tomorrow's show, Gabe, for the golf show. I'm giving away like $1,000. So now I'm like all in my head about what I need to say and what I don't need to do. Did you know, though, Gabe?
That's very generous of you.
Well, I got to get those views up, got to get those likes up. You know what? I'll include everyone who's into this one as well. After this show ends, not in the live chat, in the actual comment section, if you go to Twitter right now and retweet this show, which is streaming live on Twitter, boom, you get into a draw for $200 instantaneously. I'll give away the winner tomorrow. After this show ends, if you give me your winner of the Final Four in the comment section down below, you'll be in that draw for $500 as well that I'll be giving away on the golf show tomorrow with Feinberg. But Gabe, I'm doing a live show in Toronto on June 7th with Feinberg and Cust and Rob and Cam. You might have to come out.
Sounds good. Big time party. I miss Toronto. I haven't been to Toronto in a couple of years, actually. It's been too long. I used to sort of wait for the Raptors and go to playoff games.
You'll be waiting.
As we know. Yeah, that's it. It's been a couple of years. And I said, well, when the Raptors make it back to the playoffs, I'll go. So next year, but we'll see what we can do about June.
All right, Ben, let's lead it off with the South. Oh, I suppose I should tell you what Tim Andercuss texted me directly before
Please.
the show started. He said, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but he is picking all the 1 seeds to go to the Final Four with Duke winning.
Yeah, that sounds like the anti-hot take of society, but okay. Noted. Duly noted. It's good to know.
So Auburn is kicking things off as the 1 seed in the South. They're going to be taking on, let's see, the winner of St. Francis and Alabama State. Tell me a little bit about Auburn, Gabe. Is this a legit 1 seed? Is this a team that's for sure going to go to the Final Four? Or do they got flaws?
They don't really have many flaws, to be honest with you. I try to find flaws with them, and they're not really there. You want to talk about like quad 1 wins and all this. Some teams, have 1 quad 1 win or 2. These guys have 16 of them. That's the thing with Auburn. They basically played 17 games were against like top 10 opponents. So they are battle freaking tested. There's no dispute about it, but they're not it's not like they're head and shoulders above everybody. It's not like, oh yeah, they're definitely the team to beat. You could argue Florida are just as good as they are, if not better as well. The SEC is that good, but Auburn really are legitimate. Thing with Auburn, you don't get second chance opportunities with them. They bang the boards. These SEC teams really crash the boards well. The second chance opportunities aren't there. But with that being stated, as good as the SEC is this year, they play like SEC football on a basketball court. It's extremely physical. And you'll notice these teams are in the bonus with 12 minutes left, 13, 14 minutes left in the first half. It could be a problem for them when you get into the NCAA tournament. I'm not saying Auburn's going to get bounced early, but as a whole, the way the SEC teams play, they could find themselves in foul trouble and fouling out of games. And that could be an issue for the SEC. But yeah, Auburn, they really don't have any flaws, Pat. They are legitimately, they're the real deal. I mean, I don't really have an argument with them being the overall 1 seed. But with that being stated, I'm not betting on them to win the championship.
Ben, how do you feel about Auburn in this spot? Do you feel the same way as Gabe does? Because I know you spend most of your time watching Patriot League and the worst teams ever. How do you feel about the good teams?
Yeah, the good teams. Auburn's certainly one of the good teams. Yeah, they're obviously very good. I think we all know that. We've known that for quite a while. I'm not, look at Auburn last year. They melted completely. They're a lot better than that here. They're going to be tested eventually. Probably not too much in the first weekend. We'll see about Louisville and Creighton. It's a deep tournament, but yeah, they have all the pieces. I don't know if they have the best backcourt I've ever seen, but Auburn is as battle tested as any team around, and they've played basically everyone already if they're healthy, and they had a little injury during the year, but they seem to be in pretty good shape. They're going to be one of the toughest outs in the entire tournament.
Ben, when you scan the entire South in this part of the bracket, who do you think presents the most problems for them?
I mean, I don't know if we'll ever get the game. Obviously, if Michigan State and them clash, Michigan State's always going to be a problem. I think in the upper quadrant, it'll probably be either Texas A&M at least knows them. Texas A&M just beat them. Now, obviously, when you're playing in home courts, it's a little different. But I think it is for all these SEC teams a little weird that almost certainly you're going to end up playing some conference teams along the way because there's so many of them. And that's just a weird thing to play a team 3 or 4 times.
Gabe, go ahead. Sorry.
So I was just going to say, I saw the committee was talking about that such a challenge, Ben and Pat, having 14 teams, and it can only have 4 teams, per region as well from the conference. So they said it was a real, that was one of their biggest issues, Tetris, moving things around. I'll say this though, guys. You look at the Duke Blue Devils and you look at the Eastern bracket compared to the South. The Eastern, it's a bloodbath, right? It's like soccer. You always have that group of death. But Pat, looking at Auburn's path, it's a walk. It's a pretty casual walk in the park, to be honest. I'm not dismissing Texas A&M. Like Ben said, they beat them. But they're gonna. I think they get Creighton. I think Creighton will knock Louisville off. Then Auburn knocks Creighton off. I've got an upset special with Yale knocking Texas A&M off. And then Michigan, and we all know UC San Diego, guys. I tweeted right before the bracket, and I'm a Michigan fan, guys. I posted right before the bracket came out. I said, the team that nobody wants to play is UC San Diego. I said, Drake will be a pain in the ass. High Point can score, and, High Point are dangerous, but UC San Diego, they're a trendy team. They're the number 1 team, Pat, in the country against the spread, and that's what matters, right? As we all know, good teams win, great teams cover. right? The Tritons are the number one team in the country against the spread, and that's something that I'm going to hang my hat on coming into this tournament. Teams that cover spreads, that shows toughness. They're on a 15-game win streak. Now they get Michigan, but I think they're going to be so trendy this week that it'll blow up on people. I think Michigan will get it done. It's sitting around 3.5 right now. And I think we'll have a Danny Wolf reunion here, Michigan and Yale. But then it's the end of the line, I think, for my Michigan Wolverines against the Auburn Tigers. But overall, Pat, it looks like Auburn. Ben brought up Michigan State. They could play with them. Auburn's better than they are. It looks like this is a clear-cut path for Auburn to make it to the Final Four.
Ben, if we're going to start picking from this top region, Gabe said Creighton over Louisville. Do you go along with that?
Yeah, I like Creighton. They're not to go really deep. I think they would have needed a better draw and they would have needed to be healthier, but they're a good team. Obviously, Kalkbrenner, they have a big that is just a problem, and at least they have him to cause some problems. I think Louisville's an interesting team. They obviously made real strides. I actually thought they were going to beat Duke, and they certainly did not in the ACC final, but I would go with Creighton as well in that 8-9 coin flip.
So if people are new to the bracket pick show, this is how it works. That Gabe will either give a pick of a game or Ben will give a pick of the game. If the other person agrees, it's then put on me to make the selection. And Ben, how much do I know about college basketball?
Not much.
No. I know.
No.
That's
why
I saw Cooper Flagg hurt his ankle, Gabe. That's about all I know.
See?
He's going to be fine. Too much information can kill, though, sometimes, Pat. So you're good to go. I believe in you.
Listen, we've won these with your guys' help. I've won 2 of 4 years. So hopefully this can work out and make it 3 of 5 going through. So I'm guessing, you're a Michigan guy, Gabe. Is this like a legit, decent Michigan team? Do they deserve to be higher than a 5 seed? Like, what's going on here?
They should have been higher than a 5 seed, I think, but they stumbled down the stretch. They turn the ball over a lot. If they don't, and it's a big, but and if they don't turn the ball over, they can beat anybody in the country. But they're also a team that's capable of losing. They could lose this first game. I'm not being naive about this. I just talked about it, and that's Ben. The Tritons are the real deal. Cal Irvine are a damn good basketball team, and the Tritons just punched them in the mouth, man. I thought, you know what? 5.5 points. I think the Anteaters are going to be able to play with these guys, and the Tritons just dialed it up a notch. Like I said, a 15-point game win streak. They score over 80 points a game, and they only give up 60 points a game. They're complete at both ends of the floor. They have experience on the floor. This game's in Denver as well. But, Michigan, I think Michigan will find a way. It's going to be a super close game. The thing with Michigan, Pat, is they play in close games. Like, they literally won 8 games in a row this year, bro, by 4 points or less. And you could argue, well, you know what? They're good in close games, but you're a numbers guy and the metrics catch up to you, right? Like, you can only dodge so many bullets and dance with the devil so many times before it catches up to you. But you saw once again today, they didn't shoot the ball well. They were shooting the ball in the mid-20s today, and they came back and they beat Wisconsin. So defense does count. Michigan have their flaws offensively. They got a horrible bracket matchup, though. UC San Diego are a badass, and either Yale or Texas A&M are good. Texas A&M and Michigan would be a good game, but I think Yale are live guys in that game personally.
Ben, tell me a little bit about UC San Diego. They seem right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, this team, first of all, I don't know what a Triton is. So they got that going for them. They got a mysterious nickname, which you can't discount. And it's interesting. One of the stupid rules in the entire NCAA is if you move up from, say, like whatever, D2 or whatever, you're ineligible for the tournament for several years. Like a team like St. Thomas, some of these other schools. And UC San Diego finally has become eligible, and they hit it right at the right time because they just have a fantastic team this year. And I know the Big West isn't exactly murderer's row, but I've seen UC Irvine play. I watched that game last night. They played a couple pretty good schools in non-con, and they held their own. And then the most important point, just go to the books. The spreads are out. Michigan's a 2.5-point favorite, 3-point favorite. So this is no major upset. I do think Michigan's going to beat them, but this team is just pretty damn good. There's no doubt about it.
Gabe, do
Michigan have 2 7-footers, Pat. That's what makes it challenging for them, especially defensively. Like, Michigan get criticized, and think if you watch college basketball, Pat, there are teams like sometimes in Michigan and one of them, they go through these lulls, bro, where they won't score for 3, 4, 5 minutes, right? And sometimes they can avoid that, but they have 2 7-footers in Golden and Wolf. their point guard play was pretty good today, actually. Like, they're not a great 3-point shooting team, but they could be a streaky 3-point shooting team. Like Ben said, I think they have enough to get past UC San Diego, only because they're kind of similar teams. And then after, it'll be a real battle if it's Texas A&M and or Yale. But like I said, I think Yale are a very live dog against the Aggies. But Michigan got a really, really bad break. I don't understand it, guys. And like I said, I know they stumbled a little bit down the stretch, but losing to Michigan State twice there's no shame in that. And then turning around and winning the Big Ten tournament. But to put in context, Wisconsin gets a 3 seed. They just got beaten by Michigan. The Oregon Ducks are a freaking 5 seed, and Michigan are a 5 seed. But the big difference is the Ducks get put in Seattle. So they're basically playing in their backyard. Meanwhile, Michigan just played on Sunday, late game, last game of the tournament of the conferences. And then they got Michigan playing on Thursday. They didn't do Michigan any favors. I'll tell you that much, Pat.
Gabe, do you know what a Triton is?
That's some sort of it's like some sort of like Viking type thing.
No.
Their mascot has a sword. What is it?
Ben, do you have no idea?
I don't. That's why they're mysterious.
It is a merman.
A merman. Oh, yeah. So instead of a mermaid, that's kind of lame, actually. So, yes, I swear, like, I posted their GIF, like, whatever, the meme, when I posted the games, you know what I mean? I use, like, the whatever one I can find. And it is. Yeah, it's got a beard. I thought he was like a pirate or something, Pat. So, yeah, he's a merman. I didn't know. There's no such thing as a merman, but you got to love San Diego. They got the merman there. And, you know, the San Diego Toreros, you know what arena they play in? The Jenny Craig Center, which I just get a kick out of.
Ben, are you on board with Michigan going through? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. How about Gabe's pick of Yale over Texas A&M? Feel like you like Texas A&M. It's one of our teams.
I do. They're a physical team. It's going to be interesting. Yale, how many times have we seen whoever you get with the Ivy, you don't want to mess around with those teams. They're always dangerous. Yale's offense is dangerous. I just don't know physically if they can deal with someone like Texas A&M, just the backcourt. When they've been healthy, they've been really difficult in the SEC. Now, the one thing, Gabe, you mentioned this, I think is going to be fascinating. How are they going to ref these games? Because in the SEC, all the teams are physical. There's a chance that the foul trouble for these SEC schools is immense if they're playing extremely physical. Rebounding and depth could be an issue. I worry about that a little. I'm not sure I worry about it here, but that would be my biggest concern with a team like A&M, who defensively, they're going to really cause problems. Offensively, though, it can be kind of a rock fight. They've got some Tennessee in them, and that's always scary.
Okay.
That's the thing when you're laying 7.5 points. Like A&M are a really good team, Pat, but they're also like kind of like I just talked about Michigan. They have these offensive droughts, and they can sort of get stuck in that 55 to 58 point range sometimes, right? But like Ben said, they're going to be athletically a lot better and tougher than Yale will be. 3-point shot will be key. But like Ben said, these Ivy League schools, man, you know, they have ice in their veins. They're not overwhelmed. They're smart kids. They play, you know, smart basketball. And Yale's a good basketball team. 7.5. I wish I was getting a little bit more, but the odds makers are on to it. But there are a couple of games that do jump off the screen to me for betting purposes.
So are we going to go? So you guys are on the opposite sides of this. I think I'm going to have to side with Ben. I'm going to side with A&M on this one.
I'm going to say A&M survive and advance, but give me the points with Yale. I think this game comes down to the wire. I think it's going to be like 60 to 58 with a minute left or something like that. But I'll say A&M survives, Pat.
Okay, so
purposes.
We'll get Michigan going on versus A&M. Now we go to the southern side of the South bracket. We got Ole Miss playing the play-in winner of San Diego State and North Carolina. Gabe, should North Carolina be in the tournament?
I think they should be. I think if you look at what they said, the first 4 teams out, West Virginia, I would put North Carolina in. Ahead of West Virginia. Indiana probably would have got in, but Texas started to play well. North Carolina won a couple of games. So, Pat, I do. Even though it's crazy, I'm anti-expansion with everything. Like, I'm the old man, get off my lawn. We don't need more teams. College football, I thought it was just kind of dumb, and they're going to expand it again and, you know, play in tournaments, this and that. But I will say, there's so many college basketball teams now, guys, that it's not crazy to expand this thing now to 72. I know they were talking about 96. I think that's way too extreme. But at this point in time, but like I always said, listen, if you're the 69th best team in the country, you don't have a lot to complain about, right? So this is a good basketball game. I don't know who Ben likes in this one. I'm going to go with the Tar Heels to beat the Aztecs, though, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if either of them can deal with Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is pretty good, but North Carolina, they played a lot better at the end of the year. Now, the ACC in general, I'm not sure what to make of it because it's not like the ACC of old right now. But they're lucky. I'll say that much. They were very fortunate to get in. I'm glad they did, but they had their chance. They had Duke on the ropes there and they couldn't close it. But they've got experience. We just saw them a couple years ago.
That was a nice comeback, though, Ben. They were down by like 24. They showed a lot
huge
coming
comeback
back like that. Yeah.
I've never seen a lane viation on the offense like that, but
I mean, either
that's
in that
all right.
situation called like that. I know.
Yeah, but it's a weird game. I think I'm not sure any of these teams are overly dangerous, to be completely honest.
Do you like either of them to beat Ole Miss?
Not really.
Gabe?
No, I think Ole Miss will knock them off. Although I don't think the SEC are invincible, and Ole Miss are good. They're not great. I think North Carolina are more suited to play against Ole Miss than San Diego State are. But, I'll say Ole Miss right now. I don't want to get too bold. I almost want to say North Carolina will knock off Ole Miss, but I'm going to say North Carolina beats San Diego State for now, Pat. How about that?
Okay, yeah, that's good enough. So Ole Miss advanced. That brings us to Iowa State, and this very small print here. I'm getting old. You can see my age is showing here. Lipscomb. Where the hell is that?
Bisons, plural. That's the only thing I really know about them is their nickname is the Bisons, as if bison I thought wasn't a plural word, but they got the S on it.
Do you know where it is?
They make the tournament. Yeah,
Tennessee.
Tennessee, yeah. I don't know. I didn't know they were in Nashville, but yeah, Tennessee. Nashville, Tennessee. Pat, they're a pretty good basketball team, actually. They've been in a tournament before. They're going to get bounced, but they're tournament veterans. But for the most part, it's the same teams that make it all the time, right? Except Bryant replaces Vermont this year. There's been a couple of upsets, but they're going to be in trouble against Iowa State.
So Iowa State,
That's
good
true.
with you, Ben?
Yes.
All right. Iowa State moving on. That gives us to Marquette and New Mexico, a 10 versus 7. So take the lead here. Tell me about this.
Well, I don't know. It's just one of those complete toss-up basketball games, right? They both have very, very good guards. So, they're both smart teams. I'm going to go Marquette, though. And it's basically a pick 'em. I think it's 1.5 right now. I'll double check.
It is now 3.5 for Marquette over New Mexico.
Oh, it's been climbing then. It's what people have been jumping on earlier. They moved it early. I'm going to go Marquette here, Ben, to advance against Sheriff Lobo and company.
Yeah, I will too. Cam Jones, Shaka. I like Marquette. I thought last year they were really dangerous and wasn't able, they had obviously a different team with Kolek and whatnot, but they still have a good core. I want to see them in Michigan State, and I think we will see them in Michigan State.
So we'll have Michigan State moving on. Let's go to Marquette and Michigan State. How do you feel like those two teams match up, Ben?
Well, Michigan State, they're an interesting team. I honestly didn't think they were that good, and they really turned it on. I mean, they're 27-6, defensively really good. Jason Richardson's kid is a lot better than I thought he was going to be. He's certainly a problem. They're a dangerous team. I think if you want to look to a 7-2, this is the type of team. Again, when you have a backcourt like Marquette that's been there, I think Marquette is live in the game. Michigan State's the rightful favorite in the game. So I'm going to kind of defer. I think Marquette is live to survive and advance multiple rounds, though.
Gabe, just to give you
both great coaches.
Just to give you a heads up, Gabe, you're going to have to sweat your Rory bet until tomorrow morning. Playoff.
Oh, that's just, of course. We saw this coming. The one time I have a winner, Pat, freaking tornado warnings and now playoffs, but it is
so windy here. It's so windy where I am. I feel like I'm in a tornado.
So do you like Marquette as an upset, as a 7-2 upset over Michigan State in the second round?
I don't. I personally don't. I think Marquette are good. I think it's going to be a super close game. They're very similar and they're kind of evenly matched. I think with Michigan State, like Ben said, they're really good defensively. And they play all Michigan State teams are kind of the same. It takes them a couple of shots to score, Pat, right? They're going to miss like a putback and then they slam it back. They're going to outwork you, essentially. They're going to grind you out. They turned it up down the stretch a little bit. They're frustrated. They didn't win the Big Ten tournament, but they beat Michigan twice on national television. And I think that's put a seed in a lot of people's minds about Michigan, but that's more of a rivalry game. But I got Michigan State, guys, just looking ahead. I think Michigan State get past Marquette and or New Mexico. And then I'll call, I don't know if it's an upset. It isn't, I guess, because they're technically the higher seed, but the game will be basically a pick 'em. I'll say that they beat Iowa State after. I got Michigan State beating Iowa State after.
Are you good with that, having Michigan State and Iowa State going through, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that. Iowa State, I hope that maybe they can turn it on again because I thought they were a serious threat and they just kind of ran out of steam. They've had injury after injury. BYU just handled them. They don't really have much going on. I hope they kind of like get healthy in a hurry, but ultimately I think whoever wins Marquette and Michigan State is going to beat the upper pod, whether that's Ole Miss or Iowa State. So yeah, I would agree that Michigan State, if they get through, was getting all the way to probably Auburn.
All right, so let's do that. Let's go Iowa State versus Michigan State, and we're taking Michigan State to move on to probably play Auburn on the other side. That sound good to you, Gabe?
Yeah, it bothers me as a Michigan fan because I see that Michigan's right there. If they both won, it would be Michigan versus Michigan State potentially. But I can't. I'm not that naive. Auburn. I think Auburn's going to knock off Michigan, Pat. So, yes, then we get an Auburn and Michigan State matchup.
Can we throw Gabe a bone here, Ben, and go with Michigan to get them into the Sweet 16 so he just gets to sweat out? And then by the time, Gabe, we know if it's Auburn versus Michigan, by the time it gets to tip-off, you're going to love Michigan.
No, I'll be taking them plus the points. I imagine we'll be getting like 9.5 points or something. Maybe 7.5. Maybe I'm being a little bit much. 7.5. But like I said, I think there's a limit to what Michigan can do. Dustin May's first year this year. They are a good tournament team. They were plus 1,400 to win the Big Ten tournament. A lot of people, look at how they played down the stretch. Dude, their plane crashed a couple of years ago, and the players voted whether they want to get back on the plane and still go to the Big Ten tournament, and they voted no. They were like, no, we're like, screw it. We don't want to get back on a plane. And the team captain sort of pulled the team aside and said, listen, we got to face fear and blah, blah, blah. And they ended up winning the tournament, right? In the past, there's been a couple of times. Like Michigan didn't have their equipment once, and they had to buy jerseys from like Foot Locker, and they won. So Michigan are a good tournament team. Don't forget, listen, like I said, you got 2 7-footers. And Dustin May, guys, as Ben knows, and as people tuning in know the fall of college basketball, Dustin May's been to a Final Four before, too. Coaching matters in March Madness, Pat. Experience does matter. And May has been there before. Their center, Golden's been there before. So Michigan do have big game experience. They're used to playing in close games, but I could see them hanging with Auburn, but it's a reach for me to tell anyone right now. I think Michigan will beat Auburn.
How do you feel about it, Ben? We got Auburn versus MSU in the Elite Eight to see who goes to the Final Four. Could the Spartans beat Auburn?
Definitely. I definitely think they could beat Auburn. They're a hard-nosed team. They've got the bigs to potentially do that. If you told me who do I think wins that game, I would say, honestly, Auburn. Like, I think most people would. But Michigan State is the type of team. I'm trying to, the way I try to approach brackets is I try to think stylistically like, okay, we know the 1 seeds are the better teams. If they had to play best 4 out of 7 like the NBA, they would probably get through. But it's one game. So what type of team could beat Auburn? What type of team could beat Duke? And to me, the type of team that can beat Auburn, I think, is someone that can match them physically. And I think Michigan State can do that. So that's the right formula. And then it's just about execution.
Okay, so we'll get Auburn going to the Final Four. We can't have all the number 1 seeds. We can't copy Cuss bracket here. So let's move to the West. So just below us on the bracket that we're looking at on the screen. Reminder once again to all of you, if you want to be in the live chat, you got to be subbed to Mayo Media Network. And then if you jump over to Twitter right now, this is streaming live over there. If you retweet it, you get into a draw for $200, which will be given away tomorrow on the golf show. And then after the fact, once the live chat is done, once this live show is done, in the comment section, you give me a winner, you get into a draw for $500 as well. So a lot of money to be given from me to potentially you, but you got to get in the draws first. So please go do that while you sub to the channel. Florida is the 1 seed. Ben, you were on the show earlier this year, like 2 months ago. Tell me about Florida. Here they are.
Got good futures on Florida. Mission accomplished. That's the team for me. No, and on one hand, I'm super happy they're playing great. On one hand, I'm a little pissed off because they're going to be a very popular pick, and I really like this team from the beginning. I love their coach. I thought last year they were poised to do a lot of damage, and them in Colorado ended up getting into one of the best games in the tournament, and Florida unfortunately lost. This year, they are ready to go. I don't think you could feel better about a team than Florida right now. They're just so deep and so good. And yeah, I mean, obviously Norfolk State is not going to cause any problems, but even their draw, I feel very good about it.
Gabe, how do you feel about Florida? Because we have to pick one of these one seeds to lose, at least one of them to lose. Would this be the one for you?
The only flaw with Florida that I see is what we've been talking about is if they get into foul trouble. But even if they get into foul trouble, they're so deep, I think they can absorb it a lot better than some of the other teams can. They're dangerous, Pat and Ben, as Ben stated. I mean, talking about, like I said, well, they got 4 guys that have double digits. They have size. They win the 50-50 loose balls. They play defense. They can score in like spurts and in bunches and put a bunch of points up. They play fast. They think fast. They're well coached. You could argue that they're the team to beat. Like, you know, if they played head-to-head against Auburn tomorrow, I think a lot of us would be betting on the Florida Gators. So as Ben stated, we've lost. You know, they kind of were flying under the radar earlier in the year. The media really wasn't paying attention to them. There was so much talk about the other SEC teams, but the odds makers have always known about them. I'm seeing a plus 425 right now for Florida, which I don't think is a terrible number. No flaws with the Florida Gators. We'll see. You know, let's see their bracket as we go along here, but they're a freaking dangerous team. No disputing it. They're legitimate national championship contenders. And what I like, and the NCAA does this, the committee does this purposefully as well. They set up storylines along the way, right? And here's a nice storyline. Florida beats Norfolk State. You have UConn and Oklahoma playing, which is a toss-up game, but I think UConn will get past the Oklahoma Sooners. And then it sets up Florida versus UConn. UConn, of course, have won the championship 2 years in a row. The last team to win 2 championships in a row, the Florida Gators. Right? So UConn's trying to do something that, you know, hasn't been done in a long time, winning the 3 in a row. And it'll be the Florida Gators to be the ones that'll say, no, you're not going to do that. Even though no one thinks UConn is going to pull this off, right? It hasn't been a great year for them, but I think UConn do beat Oklahoma, and that'll be a nice little storyline. It'll be brought up.
Right now, Ben, UConn is a 4.5-point favorite as the 8 seed over the 9 seed Oklahoma. Do you like UConn to advance?
I do. I'll say this: if you're in a large field bracket, I think that Oklahoma is going to be a good game theory play because everyone likes UConn.
That's a great call.
You know what I mean? Like, UConn is not nearly as it just hasn't panned out this year. It just simply hasn't. So, do I think they get through? Probably, but I would bet of all the teams, you know, in the 8-9, everyone's UConn for 2 straight years has been your ticket to making money in the bracket. So for that reasons, I think it's a very dangerous Oklahoma team in large field pools.
Is there a chance? Is there a chance?
The 9-8 Pat
Yeah.
is a big one. Like 9s beat 8s a lot. They've actually won like 52% of the time going back. Like, I think it's like 86 type of deal. People always talk about the 5 and a 12, and there has been a 12 to make it to the Final Four, you know, every year for the last 7 years or whatnot. But the 9 and the 8, it's not a massive upset, but I'm just stating, like, it's a 52% clip. The 9s generally beat the 8s for whatever reason.
Yeah, right. Well, they're 4.5-point favorites right now, but I like Ben's call on Oklahoma just being a game theory play to squeeze out some extra points in the first round of your bracket. Because no matter who wins this game, Gabe, are we taking them to beat Florida?
No.
So
Definitely not.
So you might as well just pivot off a team you're going to have losing anyway. We'll have Oklahoma moving on to get beat by Florida in the next round. I was trying to rack my brain when you were saying that the last team prior to UConn to win back-to-back NCAA championships, it was those 2 Florida teams that had Horford, Noah. Who was the other guy who was on that team?
Horford, Noah. Billy Donovan was obviously the coach.
Or Corey Brewer, maybe?
Yeah, that's exactly. It was Corey Brewer. You're right. It's exactly who it was.
Yeah, they were great teams.
They had a white dude on the team. I'm thinking, who was the white dude that they had? But you know, it wasn't just, they brought in new dudes too. So it was sort of a crossover of the 2 years.
Didn't Capono
go to? No one's won 3.
Didn't Jason Capono go to Florida?
No, UCLA.
Yeah. Well, that was my best guess. Moving on, we got Memphis as a 5 seed against Colorado State. So a 5-12. Ben, this is the one that people point to now. It's like, oh, well, 12s always beat 5s. I feel like that really hasn't been the case lately.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything. There's something to it, and then it gets overhyped. Now, this is a unique situation because Memphis, A, I don't think is that good. B, they have a serious injury potential problem. They just played. If that doesn't pan out, Colorado State's going to be the favorite, I think. So that's not, I don't even know if you call that an upset at this point.
So what do you do with this, Gabe? Do you just blindly take the 12 and hope to move on?
I think it's a bad matchup for Memphis as well.
I agree.
Yeah, not to mention the injury that's looming over them right now. Colorado State really can't fully be trusted. I think Colorado State get overrated all the time. People, oh, they're really good, and then they lose. And we should note the Mountain West has been terrible in the NCAA tournament. I think somebody sent me a post, an X, whatever, a tweet just this morning. I think it was 3-14 as we were talking about different conferences in the tournament. So the Mountain West has struggled in the past, but from stylistically, I think it's a good matchup for Colorado State. I'll take Colorado State to advance here.
Mike Miller was the guy on Florida. The chat has told me.
Yeah, I told you, the white guy. Yeah, Mike Miller. I was thinking of Miller. And then there was the other dude, but he wasn't that old, but he went there too. Chandler Parsons, who does the podcast now with Michelle Beadle.
Michelle Beadle has a podcast?
Yeah. Well, I think she's with one of the sports books.
Yeah. Yeah, I know all about.
They're not paying us.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not
no free plug,
if it's not underdog, and you're not using code Mayo to play in this giant draft for players in the NCAA tournament, go do that right now. Use code Mayo at underdog. Figure it out. All right. Maryland versus Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon sounds like a team you love, man.
Yeah, I do. Antelopes. Can't hate on the Antelopes. Obviously their coach gets a lot of hype because he's Bryce Drew. Cool thing about them, they're starting to get reps, and I think that matters. This team is winning that conference year over year. The problem is they're not really able to do much. They have a ceiling of like a 13 seed, and Maryland is so physical. Maryland's a fascinating team. They're calling them the Crab Five, which I think is pretty cool. And that starting lineup is amazing. They have absolutely no depth whatsoever. They're running like a extremely tight rotation, but when they stay out of foul trouble, Maryland's got enough talent to beat pretty much anyone. So I don't love Grand Canyon in this spot. I just love them as a team.
How good is Derek Queen, Gabe?
First thing about Grand Canyon, Pat, we've known about the Lopes since day one. They're the only university that doesn't lie to you. They admit that they're trying to make money, and they're publicly traded on the stock market under Lope, L-O-P-E. And they started, dude. It was like, I don't know, the opening shares were like $17, $18 a share. And I can tell you what it is now, but it's insane. I think it's like $172 or something crazy like that. Although the stock market has taken a hit recently. So they're a for-profit, publicly traded university, which I always thought was super cool. And we always knew too, like once they made the tournament, that their stock would go up and their campus, etc. It's $169 a share right now. It's a lot. So yeah, Grand Canyon Education Incorporated trades under, it was Lope, but now Grand Canyon Education Incorporated. People were down on this team this year. And, in past years, they were smoking teams and they become dominant. They have money. Like I said, they're raking in the cash. They make a ton of money, this school. So they don't do football. They put all their money into the basketball program, but they were one of the worst teams against the spread this year. They were burning money. So people had a negative feeling about them because they weren't covering spreads. But like Ben stated, they've dialed it up a notch down the stretch here. They're starting to get hotter. They're a good basketball team. They have their limitations, though, and they're going to lose this game to the Maryland Terrapins. The Terps are going to win this game.
We got Mizzou as the 6 seed and Drake as the 11 seed. We need to start taking some upsets here. We have very few upsets. Could the Drake?
Here's the upset.
Okay.
Here's the upset, Pat. I'll call it. Yeah,
ready to get
a little bit bold, like you said. We can't be too safe. Listen, this Drake team and a very, very experienced basketball team, guys. They basically are the Northwest Missouri State team that they've won 4 Division II championships. So I like this. They're older kids. They've been together before. I don't think they're going to be phased playing in the NCAA tournament. They've been in championship games before. Drake is sort of like UC San Diego, or a little trendier. Everyone's talking about the Tritons this, the Tritons that, but Drake are one of those teams that you don't want to have to play. And Missouri ends up getting them. And Missouri have their flaws, guys. right? Missouri are good. They can score points, but I think Drake can play with them and they can frustrate Missouri. And talking about SEC teams getting into foul trouble, I think this is the one, Pot and Ben. It has it written all over it. Missouri gets in early foul trouble. They starting to tighten up, and Drake's experience comes through. I'm calling the upset. Drake survives and advances.
I want to do it, Ben. Give me permission.
Do it. Yeah. I'm fine with that. Drake's an interesting team. Obviously, that coach has done an unbelievable job. He's probably going to potentially get poached for Iowa. We'll see about that. But Drake, listen, that's the type of team that you don't want to play. And, the problem with Drake, I thought, was going to be just a straight talent disparity this year. And that's just not true. They're able to hang with these teams. And Missouri's a good team. There's no doubt. But they're in a large pool of SEC teams that I think are all pretty interchangeable. The difference is they're the 6th seed. So this is a pretty lucrative spot if you want to roll the dice.
Texas Tech is the 3. UNCW. Was that UNC Wilmington?
Yes, sir.
All right. So Texas Tech's moving on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can Drake beat Texas Tech?
There's
I'm not the biggest Texas Tech guy.
I think they can hang. Texas Tech are offensively challenged, right? Texas Tech are one of these teams that, like I said, Pat, they're going to go through these lulls where they don't score for 5 minutes. So it's not unthinkable to think that Texas Tech will be stuck at 53 points with 2 minutes left in a game at some point in this tournament. Drake have the experience. I don't want to get too cocky, though, and say Drake's going to knock off 2 SEC teams.
I do.
In a row like this in Missouri and Texas Tech. So I'll give them the Missouri game, but I'll say Texas Tech survives.
I want to give it to Drake, Ben.
I mean, make it to the Sweet 16. There's always that upset. There's always that one sort of small school that goes on a run, right?
Oh, there's going to be some weird stuff. And to me, particularly on the left side of the bracket, I think truly that all roads are going through Florida. So if you wanted to change it up, I think you change it up in these type of small pods, where on the right side, I think that the 1 seeds could potentially get knocked off a lot sooner. So I'm fine with that because I don't think it really matters. I think Florida is going to just eventually deal with whoever they have to.
7 seed Kansas against number 10 seed Arkansas. So that should be a fun one. Any love for Arkansas here, Gabe?
This is another fun game. You got Calipari in the tournament. He's got experience. And you've got Bill Self. So we're talking about championship coaches here going head to head. Arkansas are sort of playing with house money, aren't they? Right? I mean, some people are kind of not surprised they made a tournament, but they make the tournament in their first year here. It was an up and down year, but they end strong. Now they get a Kansas Jayhawk team that this is not Bill Self's best team, right? Kansas are very similar to like Michigan. They can beat, you could say they can beat anybody, but they could, more so lose to anybody as well. And one thing with Kansas is they're not a great, they're not a good road team, right? They're just one of these, they're dominant at home, and these are neutral games, but I like teams that are good on the road, that are more battle tested. I'm going to call the loose upset here, Ben and Pat. It's a 10 versus 7. So it's technically a seed upset here. I don't really think it is. We'll get in the point spread here right now, but
4.5.
I'm going to go with the 4.5. Yeah, I'm going with the Hogs. I say the Hogs win this basketball game.
Ben, do you like Arkansas? And then out of St. John's and Omaha, there's very few things that I know about college basketball, but I do know a few things about media. And it's like was it 2 years ago? The last time I was in Vegas, I was watching the tournament. I think this is how it ended up playing. Or maybe it was bowl season. I forget what it was, but Northwestern was in it. And did I have to hear all week about how great Northwestern was? I got the shit kicked out of them. Am I going to hear this about St. John's too? It's like, it's a New York team. They're going to be so great. Like, should they really be a 2 seed?
Yeah, I mean, I think the larger question is how good is the Big East? I really don't know because I don't think UConn's that good. Creighton is solid and Marquette seems solid, but I'll give, say what you want about Rick Pitino. He can coach. He really can coach, and he's taken this team, and they're playing good basketball, and you don't want to play them because the way they play, they're the only team I've seen. They're comfortable shooting like 20% from 3. It really doesn't matter to them. They will just figure it out. And obviously they got some serious transfers there. I don't think it really matters who they play. I think St. John's will beat whoever they have to, and I think it could be Arkansas.
Okay, so St. John's are impressive, Pat. Like you said, like the whole New York thing, they actually do play like a New York team.
They do.
Like, you know what I mean? Like like Ben said, they missed a shot and a kid will like be shot out of a cannon and get the rebound. Like they literally dive for loose balls. They dive headfirst into the stands. They outwork you. Like there's no way like they're gonna, they're gonna be bleeding. They're gonna have scrapes. Like they play hard for real. And their challenge. I thought I was pretty impressed. But like you said, Ben and Pat, the Big East isn't a great conference. It's a fun conference to watch. It's a popular conference. The Big East tournament is always entertaining. But with that being stated, UConn have just won back-to-back coming out of this conference, right? So, the conference doesn't have to be great, right? Sometimes you kind of beat yourself up through the way. Best conference doesn't always win the national championship. So, to me, St. John's are legit, and I think they have enough. Like, I'm looking here at the bottom of the bracket, Pat. And Omaha, Nebraska are a pain. They're a load to deal with, but the Johnnies will beat them. One thing with St. John's, they might not cover every spread because they're going to be big favorites, but I think St. John's will beat Kansas and/or Arkansas after, which also, once again, guys, like the committee knows, sets up a great sort of coaching matchup.
For Drake versus St. John's. You're exactly right.
Well, you could have Calipari versus Pitino, man. Right. And they're both at Kentucky before. Like I said, the committee knows what they're doing. So I'm almost betting it's like Pat with the UFC, and our boy Shaughnessy knows all about this. They're setting fighters up, right? All right, we want this guy to win. We want this guy to climb the ladder because we want to see this guy face this guy after. The committee, this is for TV as well. It's not just like, random. Can you believe that Rick Pitino and John Calipari are coaching against each other in the second round of the tournament? How did that happen? Because they sat there and they know, all right, that'll be pretty cool. So if the committee thinks it's going to happen, I'm going to say it's going to happen. Give me Arkansas versus St. John's, and then St. John's beats Arkansas to advance.
Okay, so we got St. John's against Drake. Ben, can we get Drake moving on even more, or is this too much for Drake?
I think that's a little too much for Drake. St. John's, again, they're going to be a problem for everybody until, and I know the left side, it's going to end up fairly chalky for us at the end, which I'm okay with. You can kind of pivot as needed. Florida will handle them because I'm convinced Florida is going to be handling everybody. But I don't think Drake is the type of team that can handle St. John's physicality.
Okay, so we got Florida versus St. John's. That's what we're going to have. I have Maryland beating Colorado State, losing to Florida. Sets up Florida versus St. John's in the Elite Eight, Gabe. What are the chances here?
I think Florida is going to the Final Four. I know it's not flashy. I think this is the end of the line for St. John's. Florida over St. John's, Pat. And then we get a Florida-Auburn, all SEC Final Four matchup on one side of the bracket. And I know it's frustrating. We want to pull the trigger and say, oh, look at this. The 6 seed's going to make it. But, guys, 13 of the last 17 years, a 1 seed is won, right? I mean, you might get a 2 seed that wins. And there's an outlier every couple of years, and that outlier is usually UConn. Like UConn are the ones that come out of nowhere every once in a while and win. And I don't think it's going to happen this year. So it is going to be a 1 seed. And if not a 1 seed that wins it all, maybe a 2 seed. Let's see if we can squeeze a 2 seed into a Final Four on the other side here.
Okay, so Florida. Ben, Florida versus Auburn is going to be our side of the Final Four from here.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Like, if we got those matchups, I'll say this. I think Michigan State has a much better chance to beat Auburn than St. John's would to beat Florida.
Okay, that's good to know. We'll revert back to the Final Four at the end and go through that. I need you all to go smash the like button right now. After the show is finished, if you give me your winner in the comment section, you will get into a draw for $500. Winner being given away on tomorrow's show on the Pat Mayo Experience. If you head over to @ThePME on X, gonna give it to you. Retweet the live show that we're doing right now. Up there, you'll get into a draw for $200. And since I've said all that, I'm giving away so much money, I need to make some money as well. Here, watch these ads. Look, I know we got a lot of male listeners out there, and that amongst us, hair thinning, very common. It's a very frustrating problem that many men deal with, from stress to nutrition to hormones and lifestyle. So many internal factors affect what you see on the outside. Luckily, Nutrafol is here to help. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For me, it's all preventative. If I can take this now, hopefully I'm not going to have to deal with any thinning down the line. But if you want to build a hair growth routine, it's simple. Purchase online, no prescription required. automated deliveries, and free shipping to keep you on track. Plus, with a Nutrafol subscription, you can save up to 20%. You'll have access to free naturopathic doctor consults, and a Headspace meditation membership is also included. So, start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering my listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code PATMAYO. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code PATMAYO. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code PATMAYO. Welcome to TGL, presented by SoFi, golf's newest league. It's sharp and it's electric. 2 hours of hammer dropping, overtime force, and playoffs on the line golf with 24 of the best players from the PGA Tour. The playoffs are here Monday, March 17th. 1 seed LA versus 4 seed New York at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus. Then Tuesday, March 18th, 2 seed The Bay against 3 seed Atlanta at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Tune in to catch all TGL playoff action. Keep up. It's golf. Gabe, I got a winner for you for Monday. The first leg of the TGL playoffs is on. Bet on LA.
LA, huh? I've been betting that stuff, yeah.
I've been killing betting on it. It's been great. There's only 3 good teams, and 2 of them are playing each other on Tuesday, and LA is the other good team, and they're playing one of the bad teams. They're like minus 140 or minus 135. It's a great bet.
Good.
LA against New York.
Yeah, New York sucks.
Thank you. This is the information that I need.
See, that's I'm giving. I mean, I still have my futures on the Bay to win the entire thing. We'll see how those go. But we need to talk about the East. Duke is the 1 seed over here. Ben, you tell me that Cooper Flagg's ankle is going to be okay?
Seems that way. I mean, they're obviously smart. You know, they didn't play him in the ACC tournament, which would have made no sense. And I think it will make no sense to play him against whoever they play. They could honestly hold them out the full week. I'd say that's doubtful, but I'm sure he'll be watching from the bench against whoever they play, American, or I don't even know who the other team is.
It's Mount St.
Mary's.
Oh, yeah, Mount St. Mary's, who knocked off some of those teams were. I wanted Marist to get him, but they couldn't do it. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, obviously Duke, it's going to be a problem. We'll see. I do think that they can be beat.
The 8-9 is the one just below them to see who gets the right to face Duke in the second round. Mississippi State is taking on Baylor in 8-9. Gabe, who do you like?
I'm going to go with Mississippi State here. This is the highest scoring Mississippi State team in a long time. These guys can put points up on the board. They're super athletic. Normally, Baylor have better athletes than you. And when Baylor won, they got dudes that are flying around everywhere. This is an okay Baylor team. It's not a great Baylor team. There's a ceiling to this Baylor team. And I think Mississippi State are better than they are. I think Mississippi State will win this basketball game, and then Duke will beat Mississippi State. I think Duke could beat Mississippi State without Flag, like Ben stated. I doubt he plays in the first game. But I think he's good to go. One thing with Duke, though, if you guys notice, every game somebody gets hurt. Right? There's just, you know what I mean? It's Proctor, it's this guy, it's that guy, and then it's Flag. Every time someone goes down, they're injured, right? So I sort of have a weird, bad feeling for Duke here. Can they stay healthy for 6 games through this? And this is going to be some physical basketball, a lot more physical than they've seen in the ACC when they start to move on. Hell, even when they play Mississippi State in the second round. I like this Duke team a lot, though. They have it all. This is a really, really mentally tough basketball team that, quite frankly, just showed too that they can win without Cooper Flag.
Mississippi State right now is a 1.5-point dog against Baylor. Ben, do you like Mississippi State as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not it's 2 teams that I think are pretty evenly matched. Baylor's best player, and he's a great player, is going to be an NBA player as a freshman, and we'll see how far he can take them. But Mississippi State, they're a good physical team. They can shoot at times. When they get hot, they seem to be able to make them. And certainly in the SEC, they've seen a lot of physicality. And I think that ultimately Baylor just not a great Baylor team this year. So I will go with the Bulldogs.
Up next, the 5 versus the 12. We got Oregon taking on Liberty. Is Oregon going to own the Libs, Ben?
Probably. I mean, Liberty's kind of a weird team because they play really methodical and they play good defense. I'm not sure, even with Liberty, though, it's like that vintage of team. You mentioned the location, and Oregon's had a good year. You know, if you want to look all the way back to non-con, which I think can be a detriment, but it also could be useful. Like, look what they did to Alabama. They have played some of the better teams out there, and they've represented themselves really well. So of the 5-12s, I don't think this is the most dangerous one. I think Oregon will hold serve.
Right now, Oregon is a 6.5-point favorite, Gabe, in this matchup.
Yeah, you know what? I think, as I stated, I brought it up off the top. I think travel does matter. And you're playing in Seattle. They're going to be very comfortable in the Pacific Northwest. Liberty are good, but I think the Ducks will cover the spread. It's 6.5. I can see the Ducks winning by 9, 11. I don't think they're going to smoke them, but athletically, they're going to wear them down. Their size will wear them down. This is Dana Altman's time of the year right now. I got Oregon beating Liberty, and then on a collision course with a former Pac-12 rival. Once again, committee sort of sets this stuff up. Another interesting storyline. Ducks and Arizona, who played each other so many times in the Pac-12 over the years.
Isn't Liberty that Jerry Farwell school?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
They're going to have a real fun time in Seattle.
Good football team, Liberty.
Yeah, that's
Good,
where that was
good.
Malik Willis was there, wasn't he?
Yeah. This year they weren't quite. This year it finally caught up to them a little bit. Injuries caught up, but yeah, good football program.
Arizona's a 4. Akron is a 13. We got upset watcher? You know, people are of two minds on Arizona when we do these brackets every single year. It's they have them winning or have them out in the first round, because you just maybe it's just historically in my mind. That's how I think about Arizona. I know they've had some pretty good runs, Gabe, but it does feel like they get upset more often than not early.
Well, yeah, listen, the team from the West Coast hasn't won a championship in over 30 years now. Right. So just it's the fact of the matter. Teams don't win. They haven't won. A little bit different, though, Pat. In past years, Arizona had been one of the favorites, and they have fallen short. And I think they have a great coach. I think they're flying under the radar, this team, actually. I think Arizona are extremely dangerous. They can play with anybody. I think they're mentally tougher than past Arizona teams have been, Pat. Like in past, they kind of been soft if you push them around a little bit. This is a different Arizona team. I've got them. I think they're going to beat Akron, and then I got them beating the Ducks and moving on, actually. I'm a fan of this Arizona team. I like this Duck team too, but I think Arizona are better than they are. I think Arizona can go on a nice run in this tournament. So I got Arizona beating Akron, then I got Arizona beating the Oregon Ducks.
Do you have them beating Duke?
No, I think that's where they fall short.
Ben?
I think they could, but this is where they fall short. I think Duke beats Arizona.
Ben, you said that the ones were a bit softer on this side. We can get really wonky on the right side of the bracket. Is Arizona the team we want going to the Elite Eight?
You're not wrong about what you said, by the way. Like Arizona, they lost to Princeton. They had the super team with Matherin and those guys, and they got beat. The difference, Gabe just hit this. They were a 1 seed. They were a 2 seed. They're a 4 seed, and people are not super impressed. I actually think that works in their favor. Maybe it's not the most talented Arizona team, but I actually think it is one of the most dangerous teams. And even, again, you could say, well, they don't play just a half. They handled Houston for a full half just 2 days ago, and Houston did what Houston does because Houston's a great team. But Arizona can beat Duke. There's no doubt in my mind Duke's a better team, but Arizona is the type of team, if they came out of the entire region, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I like how you're talking. I will have Arizona to beat Duke to get to the Elite Eight. We need to mix up our bracket somewhere, and Cuss has picked Duke to win. So that's always a bonus in our favor if we're picking against Duke, Gabe.
Yeah, you know what? We'll see if the Cuss curse lives here. I don't have Duke to win it all. I really do like them. I think they're a great team, but I think they're going to fall short. I think they could get upset along the way. Listen, they haven't won in a long time either, actually, which is kind of, it's kind of quietly happened. It's sort of like the Yankees. When's the last time Duke won? It's been like 11 years or something.
Yeah, the Grayson Allen team.
Yeah, like that's a long time by Duke standards, right? People, I hate Duke. They win all the this and that. They haven't won in a long time. This is as good of a chance that they have. But The bottom half of the East bracket here, guys, there's some good teams here, Pat. There's some dangerous basketball teams that could beat in Arizona, or they could beat Duke as well, I think.
Well, who do you think are the two favorites in order to do that? It feels like you like Wisconsin.
I would say Alabama.
Okay.
I would say Alabama. You know what? They're somewhat flawed, Alabama, at times, but I got to give them credit, actually. And I've watched a lot of Alabama this year. They play at such a relentless pace, number one. So teams in the SEC, all right, they're going to be used to it. They've seen it, but it's just like such a contrast in styles. Like Alabama versus Vanderbilt will be an SEC matchup, but I think St. Mary's will get past Vanderbilt. Alabama, it's just polar opposites. But Pat, Alabama like freaking push the pace, bro. Right? It's not old school Loyola Marymount basketball where they shoot every 5 seconds, but everybody on the team has a green light to shoot. So they play at an incredible pace. Yet defensively, yeah, they can give up points, but they're almost like a football team that plays in high-scoring games, but they get stops when they have to. Alabama, people were critical of their defense earlier in the year, guys, but if you look, they're really good against the 3 right now. They're super athletic. They played in really close games. If we want to hype up Florida, we want to hype up, Auburn and these teams, Alabama are right there. Right? They're right there. They don't have the size of those two teams. That's the difference. They rely on the 3-point shot more. But, I like this Tennessee team, but I think Alabama are more dangerous than Tennessee are. So I think the Alabama Crimson Tide could beat the Duke Blue Devils. If there's a 2 seed coming out of here, guys, I'm going to go with Alabama here.
So are you on the same page as Alabama with Gabe, Ben, or do you like someone else from this bottom half of the conference?
So I hope I'm on the same page. Alabama was a team I loved last year. They actually were one of the few bright spots, and they did what they needed. They gave all they could handle. They went very deep. They were the one team, though, the SEC tournament really hurt them. Grant Nelson, they need him back, and they say it might be pretty bad. That is one of their best players.
Yeah.
He hurt a leg. They're giving him various degrees of it's not good. Can they survive against Robert Morris? And I think it's going to be St. Mary's, definitely. But can they survive against potentially Wisconsin and potentially Duke? I think they need him. Obviously, Sears will do his part, but they got to get Nelson back if he's hurt. If they do get him back, I think Alabama could go all the way to the Final Four or clash with Arizona for sure.
BYU and VCU, do we care about this? Just pick a winner and move on?
Fun game.
How come?
Listen, VCU are a good team. We saw they got all they can handle today from George Washington. I think BYU have been one of the hottest teams over the last month, Pat, in college basketball. Right? They finally cooled off. It caught up to them, but they were going on the road and just like beating really good teams and smashing teams. They're a dangerous team. I like their coach a lot. I think they're going to beat BYU, and then you got a BYU-Wisconsin matchup. That'll be a fun game. I guess I'll lean Wisconsin here, though. I'm going to go Wisconsin. I got BYU beating VCU. I don't know about you, Ben, but yeah, BYU beats VCU, and then I'll say Wisconsin beats BYU after we get an Alabama-Wisconsin matchup.
So, Ben, if we don't have Wisconsin knocking off Alabama, I'm good with knocking out Wisconsin in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about BYU it makes it tough, but it's also interesting is they honestly could beat anybody because they shoot so many threes and they're so dangerous. We just saw them against Iowa State, and they handled them. When they don't shoot, though, they're just not good. So they live by the 3, and that's just one of those teams. So you get them on the wrong day, you're out. No doubt about it. If you get them on the right day, their defense, if you look at all the teams, their defense is not good, relatively speaking. So I think that's just really what it comes down to. Ultimately, I think that the winner of Alabama and St. Mary's is much more dangerous than the winner of BYU and Wisconsin.
Okay, so let's just do BYU. We'll have BYU facing Alabama, and then we'll have Alabama facing Arizona. So we have Arizona as a 4, Alabama as a 2. Gabe, can we make a case for Arizona to get to the Final Four?
I think that's where they hit the wall. I think that's where they're going to hit the wall, Arizona. I got Duke beating Arizona, and then a Duke-Alabama matchup in the cards in the future. Which, you know what? You want to go anti-cussed here and not all 4 ones? I guess this is where I'm going to do it. I'm going to put Alabama here, Pat. Alabama goes to the Final Four. They knocked the Duke Blue Devils off.
All right, well, we already have Duke out, so that's okay. So, Ben, for us, in terms of the bracket we're filling out here, can we go Arizona? Because we're so chalky at this point. So It was like the year that I think it was you sold me on Texas Tech making the Final Four, and that's what really
That
won
was
it
the
for
best
us.
year.
Yeah.
That year was the best year. That was after Virginia lost the 16. That was the real good one. But I think if you're gonna take a shot, this is the region to do it. So yeah, again, there are two different things to do. There's a lot of game theory that goes into it. The more likely winners are the 1 seeds. We all know that. That's why they're 1 seeds. But if you want to mix it up, I think Arizona to me is that type of team.
Okay. Let's go Arizona into the Final Four and move to the Midwest, the final bracket that we are covering right now. Houston's the 1 seed. SIUE is a 16 team. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, tough scene.
That's a team that's in trouble in their first game. That's what that is. That's a team that's in trouble. I think the Houston Cougars are going to the Final Four. I don't want to kill the drama here. And they have a pretty favorable path as well. Gonzaga, Georgia winner. I'll say Gonzaga. This is, we got it, like you said, but we've been pretty chalky here. This is where I'll get bold, and I'll live with this. Let's take McNeese State. Definitely taking McNeese State plus the points against Clemson. But I could see Clemson being one of these teams that choke in the tournament. If we want another 12-5 upset, I think that's live. And listen, we've seen the Purdue Boilermakers struggle in the past early in the tournament.
High point.
Right?
Give me the high point. Yes.
Listen,
here we go, Gabe.
High Point can score. So how about that, Pat? We'll have it. I'll say both of them win. A 12 seed wins and a 13 seed wins. And it gives me McNeese State versus High Point in the next round.
Where are McNeese and High Point, Ben?
We got High Point's in North Carolina. McNeese is in Louisiana, I think. I'm wearing a High Point sweatshirt for the record. Let the record show. So clearly I am on the High Point bandwagon. They've been my team all year. I'm all about High Point. And I'll say this about McNeese. They're the type of team I like what they have in the sense they got in last year. They got smoked. They were not ready for Gonzaga. Gonzaga crushed them. Now they're back. Will Wade, this is going to be much different. They will represent much better than they did. I think both those teams are seriously live.
All you need to know is they're only getting 7.5. That's a pretty big sign of respect from the odds makers right there. McNeese State against Clemson, and Purdue are laying 9.5 against High Point.
Yeah,
and that's enough to get me in interest. I like that 9.5. Like I said, I think they can win the game outright. It's obviously going to be a big upset, but I'll definitely be on a plus of points. But all you need to know, guys, how dangerous McNeese is in this game. The fact they're only getting 7.5.
McNeese High Point parlay is 15-1. Free money. Free, as Cust would say, that sounds like free money.
Now that you brought it up and I've given it, we got to play it.
Of course.
There's no turning back now.
No. So we have Houston up against High Point. We're going High Point over McNeese. Ben, you're wearing the sweatshirt. We got to go with them. Can High Point beat Houston? That is the big question of the 2025 bracket.
No, but I'll say this, Gonzaga is not who you would want to see if you're Houston. Gonzaga is not an 8 seed. That's ridiculous. Gonzaga is a good team. Now, I don't know if they can beat Houston because Houston's a machine, but man, of all the 8 seeds, that is by far the worst team to see of any of the 1 seeds. Gonzaga is going to give Houston all they can handle.
If
not much of a reward for Houston to be a 1 seed
really
and have to play Gonzaga in the second game. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Gonzaga is a 6.5 point favorite in this game. It's a pretty wide spread for an 8-9 matchup.
They're not an 8. That's a mistake. I mean,
you say they're not an 8, Ben. I know I need my glasses just like you, but they say 8 on the page.
I mean, you can go off whatever models you want. Obviously, a lot of people use KenPom. Gonzaga is 9th, not a 9 seed, 9th in the country per KenPom. I mean, it's just a ridiculous seeding for them. And like I said, Houston, I think, will clear them because Houston is so good. But man, you don't want to be messing around with Gonzaga.
So let's live in an alternate reality here where Gonzaga knocks off Houston. Do they have a path to the Final Four after that? Or do they just lose to High Point?
They do. No, they do. If they're able to get, if they're able to get
It's
there,
wide
then
open.
yeah, but this is the side. There's just so many good teams here, right? You look at the bottom here. I got Tennessee, who are really good, Illinois, Kentucky. But my bracket here, guys, I got Houston facing Tennessee. So I think Houston will get through, and they're going to end up taking on the Tennessee Volunteers. So we'll have a 1 versus 2 going head to head here for the Final Four.
Oh my God, Wofford is in the tournament. The one year I
Yeah,
went
the Terriers.
to the one year I went to the tournament, Wofford was, I think they played Michigan or Washington State. It was the I can't remember if it was it was Washington that had the other Isaiah Thomas on them, and he was awesome in that game. And it was the Duke team that had Kyrie on it, and Wofford had a dude who stood at the line like this and just launched the ball at the backboard for free throws. One of them went in at like 20 tries. It was incredible. And when you went through the program, that like you'd see like here's the Duke team pitcher, here's the Washington team pitcher, here's the Michigan team pitcher. It was Bruce Pearl's last game that he ever coached for Tennessee as well. And then you flip to the back and it's Wofford. It's like 8 dudes outside of like my elementary school parking lot. It's incredible stuff.
You know, Wofford have a center, Pat, actually, speaking of free throws.
Yep.
He's from Winnipeg.
Oh, great.
And and he's you know, I mean, if they do well, he'll be one of these cult guys. There's always some goofy dude in the tournament. You got to kind of look. So he kind of looks like he's like 35 years old. He looks older, and he shoots free throws underhand, set shots now. And he still misses. Like, he still misses, which I don't understand. Like, he shoots 31% from the free throw line. But the Terriers are a fun team. They're a scrappy team. He's actually a pretty good player. He gets a lot of rebounds. He's 6'9". He's scrappy. You know, he reminds people of Avia from last year, from Chicago, Illinois. But yeah, so if you want a character, Pat, Wofford always has the characters. They got a character once again.
I mean, that's the only reason I'm tuning in is to watch the characters. Who is the random team you gave us last year, Ben? And they hit the 3 at the buzzer to win in the first round. The Catamarans, the Catapins.
That was 2 years ago. Furman. The Paladins.
Yeah, the Paladins.
Don't hate on the Paladins.
I didn't. I won money on them.
They are. I mean, like I said, that conference. That's Wofford's conference for what it's worth. Like that conference produces some tough teams. Samford was another team that has been really good, and the problem for them is they're playing Tennessee, and Tennessee is just, you don't want to be messing around with Tennessee.
All right, let's see here. So Tennessee would be your pick to play Houston in the Elite Eight game too, Ben?
Yeah, I've got Tennessee going.
Yeah, but like I said, don't be surprised if chaos happens. If there's a crazy chaos, I will make a prediction that it's in the bottom right.
All right, well, if we're going to have Houston winning anyway, which it sounds like we're going to do, is it worth it to pull like a Kentucky going all the way to play Houston and lose to them just to mix up our bracket a little bit from everyone else's?
I've got Kentucky losing to Tennessee. But so notice I got Kentucky beating Troy. I got Kentucky beating Illinois, but then I've got them getting knocked off by Tennessee.
All right, well, is there a chance that Utah State or UCLA, Ben, could beat Tennessee? Like, is that on the table?
I think maybe Utah State could, but I think Tennessee got a really favorable draw. I actually am not a big Tennessee backer. I don't think they're that good because they can't score. Ziegler's great, and they have some pieces, and they were awesome last year. But I think they're another one that they really luck box the draw. I don't like any of those teams down there.
Well, here's what I'm doing because it's my bracket. I'm taking Utah State to go to the Elite Eight to play Houston. If we're going to have Houston winning anyway, I need to create chaos in order to win my brackets. That's the way that I'm going to do it, is by knocking out Tennessee in the second round to Utah State. Utah State beats Kentucky. Utah State loses to Houston. We got Houston going to the Final Four, which brings us to the matchup and the giveaway draw for you. As soon as the show ends, the comment section becomes open. You sub to the channel, you smash a like, and give me your winner down in the comment section, and you will be given a ballot into a draw for $500 cash. No questions asked, given out tomorrow on the Pat Mayo Experience Players Recap and Valspar Championship Show. So our Final Four looks like this, folks. Auburn versus Florida. Break it down for me, Gabe.
Auburn versus Florida, man. What a hell of a matchup. Give me the Florida Gators, though. We talked about Auburn having their flaws. Watching both these teams, I think Florida are better shooters. I just think Florida are a little bit better. I trust Florida offensively a little bit more. They're more dynamic. You know, like I said, they got multiple guys with double-digit points. They're both great teams. Either one of them could win, but give me the Florida Gators to knock off Auburn.
Benjamin?
I mean,
or Bentley, I don't know.
Neither do I. Florida went into the jungle already and handled Auburn. Florida has everything. It doesn't mean they win, but it does mean to me that they can win multiple ways. They can outscore you clearly. They have more bigs than any team out there. There is no way that they can't handle the front court. They have a great coach. He's, I think, the best coach. I've always been obsessed with him. He came from San Francisco, and I thought he did great things at that program. He knows what he's doing. Florida is the team. I think they have everything, and I also think that there's a good chance that they don't ever see Auburn, which is nice for them because the top left is, I think, a lot harder than the bottom left.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me too if Auburn stumbles along the way somewhere.
So we have Florida in the finals. Now we have to have the winner of Arizona in Houston. Ben, would Arizona have a chance against Houston?
They would have a chance. The problem, Houston's finally, again, when you're talking a single game tournament, the variance is so high. I thought Houston had years where they really had opportunities and they just caught bad injuries. Guys were going down all over the place. Houston is really, really good. Cryer, former Baylor, they just have everything. And again, you need to be healthy. They need Francis. They need all these guys. I think that Houston, Florida would be the game that I would want to see. And I think it honestly could be the game we get if it goes pretty chalky.
That's what I have. I got Alabama and Houston playing in the Final Four with the Houston Cougars beating Alabama to get to the championship, Pat. So Florida, Houston in the final.
So let's go with Florida over Houston, since I assume that most people will pick Houston over Florida.
I'd really like to see Kelvin Sampson win a championship. And Houston, like Ben said, there's a different Houston team. In past years, they've been snake bitten. They've had bad luck. They've had injuries, or they'd have a game where they sort of got stuck in the 50s. I talk about with some of these college teams like they do. This is different. They're a lot better offensively than they have been in past years, but they're still a menace to society on defense. So I think they're one of the best teams in the country. I think they're knocking on the door. I think they could beat Florida in a championship game, but that's who I have playing in the championship. But I'll say the Florida Gators beat the Houston Cougars for the championship.
Well, Ben, we have to take Florida because I accidentally wrote it in the wrong spot when it was the spot to give the winner.
That's a sign.
Maybe that's an omen. I don't know. So we have Florida over Houston in the final. Give me a score, because some of them you have to put the score in.
What a fascinating game, because it's such a clash of tempos. Houston wants to crawl and Florida wants to go. I'll say 74-68.
Florida wins 70 for Gabe. How about you?
It's a pretty good score, actually. I'll go a little higher. I'll say Florida 79, Houston 71.
Sounds like a pretty good game. I mean, just a lot of free throws down the stretch from Florida, it seems like. But it seems like it was a pretty close game. It's a game I want to watch, I think.
Oh, and it's a game that would get pretty good ratings. Yeah, no, it would be. I think it's going to be whatever happens. Listen, they don't call it March Madness for nothing. I know we were pretty chalky here, but these teams are damn good. Houston are damn good. Florida are that good. And, Auburn, you could argue, are that good. Alabama could beat anybody on any given night. So this is going to be a fun tournament.
All right. Well, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Thank you for tuning in live. If you're not watching live or you want to wait like 30 seconds, you can comment in the comment section, get yourself in that draw for $500 when you tell me your winner. Doesn't matter if it wins or loses, just that you do it and get in the draw while you smash the like at the same time. And even if the show is not live still, head on over to X at the PME and retweet this show around. That'll get you to a draw for $200. It is easy stuff here. Ben, where can everyone find you this week with all of the college basketball content you're putting out?
Oh, it's going to be a good time. Yeah, obviously, if you guys haven't,
High Point.
Go, yeah, High Point. Just travel to High Point. Oddshopper.com. Honestly, go check it out. We're running a March Madness deal. The code is DANCE. So get over there, use that code, and get access to these tools. Again, it's going to help you in so many ways. I'm obviously over there as well. I'll be doing plenty of content. Truly an awesome time of the year. I can't wait to really break down this bracket further.
Gabe, I can't wait to watch you on a Twitter clip on Thursday morning giving me like 74 bets in 3 minutes on these games.
Oh, I'm going to be ready to go. Definitely. We'll be ready to go on Tuesday. We'll be ready for the NIT and all the other college basketball. I'll be live Thursday night at 10 o'clock Eastern for the late slate of games, Thursday and Friday. And I'm expecting some craziness, Pat. Yeah. So without a doubt, I'm sure I'll get upset at some point in time on Thursday and/or Friday.
People can check that out on Sports Grid right now, or on Thursday.
Yeah, Sports Grid and Sirius XM channel 159.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. You can follow Ben on Twitter at JazzRazBets. You can follow Gabe at Sports Rage. You can follow me at the PME. That's where I'm giving away the Mondays, so you can go do that right now. All right. Code Mayo at Underdog on the way out will get you a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. And there are March Madness drafts going on right now, which is a very unique way to play it. If you think you know something about college basketball, that is really where you can realize your expected value, at least on the knowledge that you know way more than all the random dudes like me who don't even know what the names are and are just clicking buttons. Come take my money. All right. I dare you. Code Mayo at Underdog right now. I'll see you next time.